Cheerio, and welcome into TexAgs Rewind. David Nuño here, the king of country in the chair. And today on the show, we had Charean Williams. We talked about Tom Brady's comeback last night, as he always does. We talked about the transfer portal stuff. Crazy world we're in. So Charean brought the heat, as she always does. We also looked into the bowl season and really looked at the NY6 bowls. Connor O'Gara came in, gave us his thoughts on that. The Heisman, A&M's future with a OC, and yada, yada, yada. That was good. And John Pugliese told us, don't panic just yet. Aggie basketball is going to be just fine. They're close. Charean, let's get into Ags and the NFL.
Well, I was thinking for a minute there we were only going to have two, and I was going to name a couple of our head coaches with number 3, but Mike Evans came on at the end and played really well. Whatever reason, he and Tom Brady have not hooked up, have not been a good connection, and I don't know. If Brady needs to figure out, just throw the ball up to him, and he did that once. A couple times, actually, late last night. And Evans is he's going to make the play or he's going to draw a pass interference penalty, and that's what he did. 4 catches, 59 yards, most of them late. He had a 44-yard defensive pass interference penalty that he drew down to the 1-yard line. Bucs scored their first touchdown with 3 minutes to go on the next play and ended up winning the game, and that was the key play in that game. Number 2, Christian Kirk had a good game and a bad loss for the Jaguars, but he had 6 catches for 104 yards. And number 1 is Donovan Wilson. I think it's an easy call. 8 tackles, a sack. They held Jonathan Taylor to 21 carries on 82 yards. It's an outstanding performance by Donovan Wilson. And Mike McCarthy talked just about what a key player he was for the defense on Sunday against the Colts and helping stop Jonathan Taylor.
Well, he's looking like a bargain for what was he a 6th round or 7th round pick?
Yeah, for a couple reasons. You've heard and you've seen it in college football throughout the years. Like when a team like Alabama, a team like Ohio State, like these top dogs, Georgia, play in not, and this is a meaningful game, it's a freaking Sugar Bowl, but to them, it is a step below where they expected to be. They expected to be one of the 4 playoff teams. They lobbied for it until the very last second. So that's why you see, I think Bryce Young says he's going to the NFL. He had some post. I didn't read the post, but I believe he's intimating that. If he's not playing in it, then there you go. And so the transfer portal, K-State, it's going to mean a lot more for, I'm supposed to look over here. It's going to mean a lot more for K-State. So I tend to agree with you in that respect. Look, it's too hard to make a prediction a month before a game, but I'd lean K-State because they've been playing that level of football. And I think Bama's having, they're going to lose a lot of players. They've already lost a lot of players.
I'm with you on that one. And we can, I guess, dive into the Rose Bowl. Utah playing in it for a 2nd straight year. They're the defending Rose Bowl champs, correct? They won it last year, or was that Ohio State?
Ohio State won.
Ohio State won,
yeah,
okay.
Jackson Nigba had a huge game.
That's correct, yeah. So they're getting their 2nd crack at it. They're going up against Penn State, a little bit more doable for them. And, but this one, I think I'd put my money on Utah. Penn State's the 3rd best Big Ten team since Michigan and Ohio State made the playoffs, so they kind of got stuck with Penn State for this game. But, Cameron Rising was really impressive in the Pac-12 championship game, and I don't see why he wouldn't be impressive in this one as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting with Utah because I think their storyline has been interesting because we significantly overrated them going into the year, then they lost to Florida. Then we underrated them after the start that they had. I'm trying to go to their schedule because there was a second loss that really, I remember, caught my attention. So they lose to Florida, and at that time, after that game, SEC, right? But Utah, there was a lot of hype for them in that game, and they ended up, Anthony Richardson had one of the best games.
Yeah, after that game, people wanted to give Anthony Richardson the Heisman.
And then UCLA was the hot team that they lost to, and then UCLA kind of went back to reality, but they had a nice year, absolutely. So I tend to go with the hot team, and I'm not. In Penn State is a team that I think we always undervalue because every time you think that they're going to be at a certain level, they drop. I'm with you. I go Utah on this one. Nick, we had a couple more games to get into.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the Orange Bowl. They picked this one perfectly. Number 6, Tennessee, and number 7, Clemson. With Hendon Hooker out for the year. Who even is Tennessee's quarterback? I don't even know.
I don't even remember his name.
Yeah,
the guy who started last year. What's his name? Whatever. Just keep going.
No idea, but yeah. And I guess Clemson kind of finding a little lightning in a bottle with Cade Klubnik all of a sudden.
Joe Milton?
That's right, Joe Milton. But causing DJ you know who to transfer within 24 hours of that game. It's pretty crazy, but I'm going to go ahead and take Clemson on this one just because Cade looked like he had something there, and you know, who knows with the transfers at Tennessee and whatnot. I know they got a good offense, but I'd lean Clemson in this one, at least early on.
The Clemson A&M storyline is very similar, other than Clemson was extremely successful this year and A&M wasn't. So I understand. But what I'm saying is there's talk that Clemson, had they started Cade Klubnik earlier, would have been in the playoffs this year. To give them the last couple of games of the year, they would be in the playoffs with a chance to win it all.
Yeah, I would agree.
Their arrow's pointing up. Tennessee, you can't be as good without Hendon Hooker. You just can't be. Doesn't mean you can't win. I think this game will mean something for Cade and for Clemson. Typically, they should be playing in the playoffs. If you use the same logic about Alabama, you would think, no, they're jumping out. But my first glance at it, I'm all in on Clemson on this one.
Yeah, we got one more. We got the Cotton Bowl, and just two random teams that come to Dallas, in my opinion. Tulane, and then I should say 16, not 6, but Tulane and number 10 at USC squaring off in that one. And I guess if Caleb Williams is injured, and you know, who knows how severe it was. I don't think they've announced it or anything, but I would imagine if he's healthy, he'll play. So let's just assume he's playing. You got to think USC big time here. I mean,
you got to think, but first off, I really like Willie Fritz and what he's been able to do there. I really like him. And for those who haven't followed his career, he was a head coach at Sam Houston, and his daughter actually was a newscaster in Houston as well, Lainey Fritz. But he's kind of gone through and really, I think, grown, absolutely grown. So I'd like to see what Tulane can do, but I agree with you. I think USC is the much better team.
Yeah, and I mean, those group of 5 teams always, when they get into a big spot like that, they always seem to rise to the occasion. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Tulane makes it a lot more competitive than what we're sitting here thinking right now.
I'm putting the optimist hat back on for a moment. They figure out the offense. They get the right offensive coordinator. Does that put the rest of the SEC on notice? I know that there's way more things that have to happen. I mean, there's too crazy of a college football world, as we discussed. But if they figure that component out, how legit are they?
Yeah, it's so hard to say without knowing the offensive mind who's coming in. I would say, obviously, if they feel like they have that right offensive mind, and the guy that I was banging the drum for was Alex Golish, who just got the head coaching job at USF. I thought that would have been really interesting if Jimbo Fisher had gone that direction, but it's still going to take getting that right mind to come in and tweak those things, because at the end of the day, it's all about talent acquisition. And Jimbo Fisher, say what you want about the frustrating offenses and him being a little bit past his heyday as a play caller, it's still all about talent acquisition. He's done that at a very high level, and the defense, for what it was put through this year, with how many frustrating games they probably had to feel like, man, if we allow 20 points, we don't have a chance. Yeah, you would tend to think that this favors A&M moving forward if they can figure that out, because they do have the talent still on board. And if they can get that offense looking like what we think it's capable of, then that changes the game.
I'm going to throw you some names that are, rumored or reported, I should say, of being of interest. Right? You got Mullen out there of interest. You've got Longo. Yeah. You've got Riley. Who am I missing? Grimes. I think if they got any of those guys, you're in a better spot.
Agreed. Those are the 4. Like, literally, if I can come up with a 4 outside of Golish, like, that would have been it right there. Riley's fascinating. He's really interesting. And I think that guy is going to get one of these big time opportunities. And I've seen some pessimism about Grimes. And I would push back on that a little bit. And I think that what he did at BYU was obviously really well respected. And even what they did 2021 at Baylor, a team that obviously, like, Dave Aranda runs that defense, and that's kind of the way that they've built their foundation. But I think what they've been able to do there is still really impressive. But yeah, any one of those guys comes on board and you're definitely feeling better. It's just a matter of whether or not it's going to be the right fit. And if Jimbo Fisher can handle that dynamic, if he's going to be the CEO, and if he's going to be able to kind of take a step back and realize, all right, I got to put this in somebody else's hands. I've got to figure out what I can do best to help my team win.
But the SMU win helped them, right? The SMU win helped them. And this team, it has been, they were the last team out, right? I caught a lot of stuff last year for saying that, that this team's losses in SEC play is going to hinder them to get in the NCAA tournament, even despite that great run in the conference tournament. So I think this team could still do it. I think they're good enough to do it. I really like this team. I was as excited as you were, David, to get this team because this team is chock full of SEC talent, but I think they're just missing that guy. You know, who do you go to late in the shot clock? If it's going to be Wade Taylor, it's got to be. You know, like you got to go, Wade. Like that's the kind of thing. I think Boots needs to do a better job of picking his spots. And to me, the kicker is Dexter Dennis. Dexter Dennis has to be the man. Like he really has to, especially with some guys missing some time with practice. I heard buzz, you know, Hayden Hefner hasn't practiced much and he hasn't played the last couple games. And you got Henry Coleman, he was sick. To me, Dexter Dennis has to be the dude because he can get his shot in a variety of ways and he can turn up on the defensive end. He is a Buzz Williams guy. And that's the one thing that I'll say is I think Buzz can turn all these guys on. He can get these guys to do what he needs them to do to be successful because they're just like him. And that's the one thing I appreciate about this roster makeup.
All right, that's going to do it here for TexAgs Rewind. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and then sign up for the alerts, and then tell your friends about it, and then, I don't know, do something else. But do it with pride and with Aggie goggles on. We'll see you next time.